I'm going to try something a little bit different today. Again, I was going to try doing the walking stuff again today, but it is fucking cold as a witch's tit out there right now. So I thought I would try recording something on the drive home. I've got my phone balanced very precariously on my dash right now, so hopefully this doesn't flip over in the middle of recording. But anyway, Jordan back here again. This is vlog number 4 now, I think. Jesus Christ, I'm already beginning to lose count. But anyway, it had occurred to me that since on my vlogs number 2 and 3, I had inadvertently ended up bringing up Ocarina of Time in some shape and form. The first time was because that's where the name of my YouTube channel derives from. And of course, yesterday's vlog was about how that's also where my cat's name comes from. I thought maybe I might just address it head on and just talk about Ocarina of Time itself and why it is that I love that game and why I think that it's such an important game, or at least why it's so important to me. Particularly because, again, as I mentioned in a past vlog, how there seems to be this, I hesitate to call it a movement, but, well, we're seeing a lot more people in recent years coming out talking about how they think the game is overrated and how it's people just saying they like it because they've got nostalgia goggles on, etc., etc. I just feel very strongly against that. I'm not even really sure that I could tell you why necessarily. It's just what I feel. I mean, I played that game a few years back again to completion as part of the Extra Life Charity Marathon. I did it straight in one go. Took about 14 hours and 20 minutes, I think. And then I played it again last year. I finally got around to, for the very first time ever, I ticked something off my laundry list of something I've been intending to do, which is I finally got around to playing and completing Master Quest. Which is, you know, a little bit of a different experience trying to play the game on the GameCube. Very different using that controller when I'm so used to the N64. Because let me tell you, Ocarina of Time, I've beaten that game to completion. I couldn't even tell you how many times. More than I could really keep track of. I mean, it's gotten to the point where I know that game like at the back of my hand. I guess really that's where I can start, as good a place as any other, really, is at the beginning of the game as far as how it involves itself in my life story. Because, in fact, I hadn't up to that point even really had much of a history with Zelda games, period. I have a very, very faint memory of being a kid, maybe, gosh, 6 or 7 years old, and one day randomly, my dad brought home from work a copy of Zelda 2: Link's Adventure, or The Adventure of Link, I should say, and on NES. And I didn't ask him to do it, and even though I did rent games on occasion, it was always like a thing, like I had to ask for, like, can we go to the video store? Can we go and rent a game? He never just impromptu brought something home for me. So it was very unusual. But I had never even heard of Zelda. Even though it was the second game, I was completely unaware of the first one. Somehow, I'm not sure how, I mean, like, aside from Mario, the fucking most popular Nintendo game pretty much of all time, and somehow I remained blissfully unaware of it at that ripe young age. So when he brought me Zelda 2, I didn't even realize that it was part of a series. But at any rate, I popped it into my NES, and that game, you may or may not be surprised to hear this, but did not go over well with me. I was used to playing Mario and games like that, and you know, platformers and stuff. This game was so radically different from anything else I'd played, and I just was not prepared for that game experience at all. Moreover, while I'd still like to think of myself as more or less a relatively open-minded gamer, I got stuck right away. You know, I was willing to give it a chance and try out this new game, but I mean, if you've played Zelda, this is why I say you might not be surprised by this, because anyone that's a fan of the Zelda franchise can tell you that whether you like that game or hate the game, no matter which way you look at it, it is undoubtedly the black sheep of the franchise. It is the most radically different in every way, and is probably the most polarizing title in the series, which is saying something considering that that was only the second game in the series, and there is now to date, what, like 15, 16, something like that? I can't even keep track of them anymore. They keep coming out seemingly like every year or every other year now. And of course, I haven't really been a Nintendo fanboy for many years. I kind of gave up after the GameCube. And it's been hard to keep up with them since. I actually bought a Wii just so that I could play Skyward Sword, and I have to admit to you, I've still to even take it out of the box, so I haven't got around to that yet. With exception to the first couple of Game Boy titles, I haven't kept up with any of the portable Zelda games either. But anyway, I'm getting off topic here a little bit. The point is that at this point in my life, this was a totally new experience to me, and yeah, I mean, it just left a really bad taste in my mouth and put me off Zelda for a long time, because again, anyone who's played that game can tell you it is incredibly difficult. I still have not managed to even make it to the first dungeon in my adult life as a gamer. I have access to, walkthroughs now and stuff like that, which, if ever I decided to finally hunker down and give it a shot, at least that would be an option available to me. But of course, back in, 1989 or whenever it was, we didn't have access to that. So we had to depend on our wits alone. And to a kid that age, that is a fucking tough game to slug through. I don't think I even made it past the second town. I had no idea what was going on, no idea what I was supposed to do or where I was supposed to go. It was just a real bad experience. Fast forward to 1998, I believe it was. Randomly for Christmas, my grandmother bought me a copy of Ocarina of Time. And again, I didn't know what to think of it, because I was just like, oh, all I remembered was that horrible, horrible experience with Zelda 2 as a young kid. And I was thinking, oh, I'm not sure about this. I really don't know if I want to bother giving this a shot or not. And for a while, I contemplated even saying to my grandma, you know what? Do you still have the receipt? Is there any way maybe you can exchange it for something else? It was a good thing that I didn't, because finally I decided to take a risk after I'd heard from a couple people that no, this really is a pretty decent game. You should check it out. Boy, I mean, I hesitate to say that I dodged a bullet, but really it was kind of the opposite. I let myself get hit by the bullet, and I'm glad that I did. Because, it instantly became my favorite game of all time. I had never, ever imagined that a game could be what that game was. I kind of said the same thing about Zelda 2, except not in a good way. I hadn't played a game like that before and didn't realize that there were games kind of like that out there, but at the time it just wasn't for me. With Ocarina of Time, boy, it was the exact opposite. My mind was blown all over the fucking walls. I had to scrape parts off the ceiling with a shovel. It was not pretty, but I couldn't have been happier about it. I don't even really know how to explain it. It's hard to look back. And now in 2017, try to explain why it had such an impact beyond just sort of repeating myself on that point and saying that it was unlike anything I had ever experienced. The open world, the graphics, the freedom, the sense of adventure, the storyline was unparalleled. And maybe you might have come across something maybe a little more advanced if you were a PC gamer. But anyone who knows me knows that this is something that I was actually teased for a lot late in life, is that it actually took me a long time to even get internet in my home. Never mind having a decent computer. So I was always a console gamer growing up, and for console gamers, this game was a big fucking deal. And, sorry, I just gotta pay attention to the road momentarily here. But, yeah, I don't really know what to say about that. I mean, it was so immersive. No joke. I, for the first little while, was dreaming about the game, having intensely vivid, lucid dreams about playing the game and being lost in that world. And I was even, like, having these weird, like, half dreams where I knew that I was dreaming. I knew that I was lying in bed just sleeping. And so I was able to tap into the advantage of that by using my conscious side of my brain to plan out my plan of attack for the next day, for when I got out of bed. And of course, the first thing that I would do after I got out of bed is just jump right back onto my N64 and start playing again. And, that was one thing about that game, was that there was so much to do in it. And you got lost in all of these tasks and all of these side quests. And again, for me, I had never played any game even comparable to it. It was so new and fresh. I was so lost in it and so overwhelmed by all of this stuff there was to do that, yeah, I would go to bed and just lie there in bed, kind of half dreaming, planning out my plan of action, my course of my battle plan for the next day when I would hit that on button again. Okay, so I'm going to go to this town, and I'm going to talk to these characters, and I'm going to buy this item, and then I'm going to go and find this heart piece that I've been trying to find, and then I'm gonna line myself up for this next dungeon, but I'm not gonna have time to beat the next dungeon, because then I'm gonna have to finish my homework or whatever, and then have dinner and go to bed. So there's not gonna be enough time. But I want to set myself up for that for the next day following that. So I'm at least gonna find that dungeon and then save at the entrance, and then the next day I'm gonna try to slug my way through as much of that dungeon as I possibly can, and hopefully get the new item, and then get the new medallion or whatever it is that I'm trying to get. And then after that, what am I going to set myself for the next day? Oh, dang, I only need 5 more Golden Skull Tula tokens to get the next sized wallet or whatever it is. I was fucking obsessed. This game was all that I thought about for months. And I poured through the user manual. I read that manual so many times. I knew everything off by heart. I fell in love with all the colorful artwork in the manual. And I read over and over and over again and memorized all of the different items that there were in the game. That's the thing with the manual, is that it would tell you items that you would be able to attain later in the game. And so I always entertain myself with that, thinking, oh man, the giant's knife? I wonder how you get that. Spoiler alert, the giant's knife is sort of a red herring in the game. It's really clever on Nintendo's part that they the way they introduce it in the manual, it's built up as this amazing sword, and then when you finally do get it in the game, it ends up being a total piece of shit, breaks on you in after like a couple of uses, right? But worry not, there turns out to be an even better sword than that. Anyway, yeah, just obsessed. I don't really know how else to put it. That's really the best, most accurate way of putting it. Just an absolute obsession. Fell completely in love with it, and played it a million times since then. To this day, I remember by heart, without having to consult any manual, any player's guide, any online walkthroughs. I know where every single item is. I know how to defeat every single enemy. I know where every secret location is in every dungeon. I could practically do it with my eyes closed. Yeah, I mean, well, you get the point. I'm obsessed. I have been obsessed to a degree. I still kind of am. And I always look back on that experience fondly and make a point of, at least every couple of years, giving it another playthrough just for old time's sake. And I gotta say, I still feel like it holds up. Are other modern day games more advanced? Yes, absolutely. Do they do what the game does just as well, if not better? Absolutely. But you know what? I think that what people don't take into context is what it meant at the time. You know, like when people talk about how Citizen Kane is the greatest movie of all time, you can watch that movie now and think, I don't know, man. I mean, it's a good movie. It still does hold up. It's a great experience. I love the story. I love the cinematography. I love watching it. But the greatest movie of all time? Really? I don't see it. But again, you gotta take the historical context into consideration. When Citizen Kane first came out, same deal. Same deal as Ocarina of Time. That film blew everyone's minds. No one had ever seen anything like that. Orson Welles made use of techniques and pioneered certain filmmaking techniques and did things with his storytelling and did things with the camera that no one even knew was fucking possible. That's probably the best comparison that I can make. And really fittingly too, because, people were saying of the time, Ocarina of Time really was the Citizen Kane of video games, And while I wouldn't say it's maybe my number one favorite game of all time, it still is pretty close. It still really is really up there. I think it holds its own very easily in the pantheon of the greatest games ever made. And, man, if you haven't played it, what the fuck is wrong with you? Get out there, go to a used game store. You can buy a used N64 now for $30. You can find a used copy of Ocarina of Time for $30 or $4. You owe it to yourself if this isn't an experience that you've afforded yourself. Don't put it off any longer. I can't say enough good things about it. But I don't know. Maybe I do have nostalgia goggles on. I don't know, but all I can say is I hope that it has for you the same impact that it had for me, because it's an experience I don't think that I've ever had with any other game in my entire life. And I've been playing games for some 27 years. So for me, that's a big statement to make. Anyway, my drive is over. I've reached my destination, and I've pretty much exhausted everything I care to talk about for the moment. So I hope this has either inspired you to go out and check out the game for yourself, or if you have played the game, I hope it's inspired you to pick it up again and give it another playthrough. It's totally worth it, and have fun. Anyway, thanks for checking out this vlog, and tune in again tomorrow.